Hello and welcome to my new video featuring this Tandy 1000 TL desktop computer hooked up to my IBM CGA monitor and Model F XT keyboard. Now, this computer has been sitting on a shelf for a while after I purchased it, and I decided to let it shine now for the Sep-Tandy month. Better late than never. Now, this is the first Tandy I have ever owned and used, so please bear with me. This video will be the perspective from a retro PC enthusiast who doesn't have a lot of knowledge on the Tandy computers and has never worked with one. So, on the front of the PC, we have a reset button, allowing you to reset the computer. We have a microphone input and an earphone output. We also have a volume knob here to control the volume of the speaker, which is really nice. We have a 5¼ inch floppy drive, 360 kilobytes, and a 3½ inch floppy drive, 720 kilobytes. And we also have the beautiful Tandy 1000 TL badge here on the left. On the back of the computer, we have the power input connector. We have a keyboard connector, 2 joystick connectors, a standard serial port to hook up a serial mouse, a custom parallel port to hook up a printer, and the monitor output, accepting a variety of CGA, RGB, and MDA Hercules based monitors. I've also added an expansion card here to hook up a compact flash card, but more on that later. Now, this computer normally comes with this Tandy enhanced keyboard, but I decided not to use it because of this. I hope you can hear this. So yeah, this keyboard needs a very thorough cleaning. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to do that right now because I want to get this video out today. So for the moment, I'm using my Model F keyboard. Basically, any XT compatible keyboard will work on this computer. So if you ever decide to get one of these and you don't have the keyboard, it's a bit of a shame, but it's not a disaster in the sense that you will be able to hook up a standard XT keyboard on it. You can also hook up a standard serial mouse onto this PC as it has a standard serial port, so that's also good. The Tandy 1000 supports a variety of displays. For the moment I have it hooked up to my IBM 5153 CGA monitor, but you can also hook it up to a Commodore RGB monitor or any CGA compliant monitor. It is also able to output MDA Hercules graphics, albeit in monochrome obviously. So if you have a IBM 5151 or something like that, you can also hook it up to your Tandy 1000. So there are a variety of display options for this machine. Now the machine features a 286 running at 8 MHz in this PLCC socket. It is actually an XT based machine. It has 5 ISA slots. It has 640 kilobytes of RAM on board, some of it shared with the video card. So the first thing I did was remove the lid and disconnected the power supply from the main board and from the 5¼ inch floppy drive. Hooked up my multimeter to the Molex connector and noticed that I had a clean 5 volts on the 5 volt rail, but I only had 9.5 volts on the 12 volt rail. So that latter was a little bit disappointing, but I figured what the hell, let's just hook it up and see if it boots. And sure enough, it did. It came up with a 640K memory size message, and then, much to my surprise, it started booting directly into MS-DOS 3.3. Now this was a little bit peculiar because I didn't see any hard drive in the PC, and I definitely didn't see a floppy disk in one of the floppy drives. So how was it able to manage to boot into MS-DOS? How was I able to get a C drive on the system? A C drive containing 13 files and 0 bytes free, which is a bit odd. Well, the reason is because this is all loaded into a ROM chip on the PC, allowing you to effectively boot the PC without any floppies or any hard drives. Now, one of the executables on this C drive is the desk command, which launches the Tandy into the desk-made software application, which is kind of a portal-based application that competed with earlier version of Microsoft Windows. But we immediately are greeted with this error message that some files are not found. Notice also that this is all in French because this was a computer which was purchased in Belgium, in the French-speaking part of the country, where obviously a French software package was loaded into the ROM of the PC. But here we have the desk-made Windows environment, which doesn't do a whole lot if you don't have your Tandy setup disks, because the ROM on this PC only allows you to boot into DeskMate, but all of the applications that make up the DeskMate system need to be loaded off of disks. So we'll need to go and create those disks right now. Now, the Tandy uses 720 kilobytes, 3.5-inch floppy disks. Something that might not be readily available in your arsenal, but it's very easy to convert standard 3.5-inch 1.44 megabyte floppies into 720K floppies. You just need to have a piece of tape that you put over this hole here on the left, fooling the computer into thinking this is a 720K disk. And before we continue, I want to point out this cool website, which is called oldschool.org, which contains lots of Tandy related information, frequently asked questions, lots of guides, machine specific stuff. You can also download the various disk images that I'm going to be using here, including the Tandy 1000 TL setup disks. Now I'm going to be moving to my modern PC, where I will be creating the disk images for the Tandy. You might need to go into the BIOS and change your drive letter if you want to properly format these types of drives or write images to it. For example, here I'm going to be formatting the A drive, and I'm going to specify the drive size as being 720K, and it will happily format the disk without any problems. Now, the reason I had to change the disk drive size in the BIOS is not necessarily for formatting it, but is because certain software used to write disk images, such as this disk write software application that I'm using, actually expects a physical 720 kilobyte drive to be present in the PC. So you need to fool the software into thinking that there is actually a 720K drive in the system, and that's what the BIOS does. So here you can see our first Tandy setup disk has been created and all of the files are present. This is the MS-DOS disk. We have 2 more disks to go, which are made up of DeskMate applications that will be used in the DeskMate Windows environment of the Tandy 1000. So like we booted from the ROM chip earlier, now we're booting from the floppy, which is basically the same thing. It loads up MS-DOS 3.3, but it has some additional utilities here on the disk that you can use. And one very useful thing on the disk is the setup TL command, which allows you to set up your Tandy 1000 TL. It will provide a menu like this. For example, here it has noticed that my disk drives have changed because I have disconnected the 5.25-inch floppy drive and I forgot to hook it back up. But you can also change stuff like video display, what it needs to, if it needs to prompt for the date and time, if you want to have DeskMate starting up by default, kind of basic stuff that you can configure here using the setup TL command. So the first disk contains the MS-DOS 3.3 operating system and a number of utilities that come with MS-DOS 3.3, and also the setup TL executable, allowing us to set up the Tandy. The second disk is actually the first DeskMate disk, which contains a lot of files related to the DeskMate software package. We have ACC files, which are DeskMate programs. We have PDM files, which are also programs for the DeskMate environment. We have DeskMate clips, we have sample files for the text editor, and so on. And the third disk, which is the second DeskMate disk, contains much of the same additional applications for DeskMate and sound bites and sample files. Now we still have a C drive, which is our ROM drive, and this includes the DeskMate executable, allowing us to start DeskMate. Only this time, because we have inserted disk number 2, it will properly load up a DeskMate desktop with all of our applications here, where you can start stuff like a phone list application, a text editor, pretty basic, but it works, a calendar, and even a music application allowing you to compose and listen to music. So let's select a file here from our floppy so that we can hear the beautiful 3-voice Tandy sound system. So the way that the Tandy is able to output music through its PC speaker is pretty unique for this type of computers. If you compare it to the traditional IBM PC or the PC clones, it makes up a world of difference. Now, so far we've only looked at floppies to extend our storage and reach outside of the ROM, but there are other storage options. Given that this is a standard XT machine, it is possible to add 8-bit expansion cards. And one of the expansion cards that you can add to your Tandy 1000 TL is a standard MFM controller card and an MFM hard drive. Now you'll need to find a 3.5-inch MFM hard drive like this one that fits into the provided bracket here. And you'll need to find an 8-bit MFM card or RLL card that is compatible with your drive. So you just slot it into an available 8-bit ISA slot. You hook up your data cable and control cable to the hard drive, hook up the power, and you are ready to start up the machine. Now, these MFM hard drives are getting more and more difficult to find, and especially these 3.5-inch ones aren't necessarily the most reliable drives, but it is an option. So let's start her up and listen to the sweet sound of an MFM hard drive spinning up. So here you can see that F-Disk has detected our fixed disk drive. We can create a partition, restart the computer, and then attempt to format the hard drive. Unfortunately, there was a little issue with this particular hard drive, as MS-DOS was unable to format it due to an invalid media or track 0 bad error, rendering the disk completely unusable. I did warn you that these things aren't very reliable anymore. In fact, they probably never were to start with. Now, there are other variants of this solution, like these hard cards, which are 8-bit ISA cards with an MFM controller and a hard drive combined. Or you could try to set up an 8-bit networking card with a special EPROM chip containing a universal BIOS so that it is able to detect standard IDE drives. But I think a better option is this XT IDE combo with a compact flash card. The idea being that you can use your SD card or compact flash card and put it into a modern computer, copy all of your files onto it, and then using it on your retro computer like so. So you just hook up the compact flash card into this little adapter here, put everything in your computer, and you are good to go. Now, there are solutions where the 8-bit XT IDE card has an integrated compact flash slot. So this one needs 2 separate components attached together using this ribbon cable. So there are various XT IDE compact flash or SD card solutions out there. So we start by putting the XT IDE 8-bit ISA card into our computer, and then using a standard IDE flat cable we hook up our compact flash reader, acting as kind of a hard drive. And this way we have easy access to our compact flash or SD card on the back of the PC, so we can transfer files back and forth from our modern PC to this Tandy. And that's basically all you need to do. If you have an SD card with MS-DOS installed on it, it will detect it and it will automatically boot MS-DOS from the SD card, containing all of the files that you've copied onto it. For example, here I have compiled a list of Tandy optimized games, but we're going to be looking at those in a future video, because in part 2 I will be going over some cool games that you can run on your Tandy 1000 TL, enjoying the enhanced graphics and sound that the Tandy 1000 TL provides. We'll also compare how these games look on a standard IBM PC or PC compatible. We'll also be completely disassembling the machine so that we can have a look at all of the different components of the machine in much more detail. So in short, a lot more stuff to come. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Please consider subscribing, sharing, and liking, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye bye.